Alright guys, I got another part of the series I was wanting to get with you. It's early morning right now, but I have to do it when everybody's asleep, or if I don't, you'll be hearing a lot of background noise and people. So, we got some storms moving in today. I may be putting those on the Wide Open Adventure, and we got some storms moving in, I believe, Saturday is what my nephew was telling me. So, without further ado, let's get with some of these abductions again in our series that we're working on. 1920, a young couple was tending animals in the Sierra Morena Mountains near, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Lesignan in Spain, when the woman was apparently abducted by an ape-like creature as she was washing clothes by a stream. She was then kept captive by the creature, repetitively raped, and when she finally managed to escape and make her way back home, she uh, gave birth to a strange hairy child who would be called Annika, the nicknamed the daughter of the orangutan. Apparently, the baby was deformed with long arms, a hairy body, and an ape-like mouth. That is very important to me because there was a young man that lived a little ways from where I'm at that continued to go to the woods and over time never returned. And he told his mom that he had made friends with a large hairy man. In 1928, a Native American trapper was in British Columbia, Canada, when he claimed to have had been abducted by a Sasquatch during the night while sleeping. Similar to the Osman case, according to him, he was carried an estimated 3 miles through rugged wilderness, after which he was thrown to the ground and then found that he was surrounded by a group of about 20 of the hulking creatures. Apparently, there were human bones strewn about the ground about him, which led the trapper to think that the beast meant to eat him. The creatures supposedly gathered around him, poked him, and pulled at his clothes, which they seemed genuinely confused by. After some time of this, the beast lost interest somewhat, and then the trapper made a run for it, managing to escape their clutches. Again, that's, I think, is a good case of why the clothes are removed, is foreign to them. And also, if they're raping people, they would remove the clothes. It would be unnatural for them. In 1957, a man in a remote village in China claimed to have heard his daughter screaming out for help, and he ran and found. It's written in Chinese a little bit. He ran and found her with an 8-foot tall hairy hominid picking her up and carrying her away. The father bravely grabbed a stick and chased after them as he started beating the creature as hard as he could. The startled beast finally dropped the daughter and tried to escape, but purportedly became bogged down in some thick mud. Other alarmed villagers proceeded relentlessly to beat the creature to death. The creature was then dragged to the village, where it was paraded around, and the guy in the village had stuffed the creature where they say it is still today, but they will only allow people within their village to be able to view and touch the beast. And then in 1987, on June 1st of the year, a 16-year-old Teresa Beyer and 43-year-old Russell Welch embarked on a camping trip to the Sierra National Forest. The two were apparently quite attracted to the Bigfoot phenomenon, and had hoped to get a glimpse of the creature themselves. At some point, the two became separated, and Teresa would vanish without a trace. Authorities would later question Welch, during which time he would claim that his companion had been abducted by Bigfoot. Dubious law enforcement officials would conduct an intense investigation into the disappearance but find no evidence of foul play, forcing them to let Welch go. Considering that Teresa's body has never been found, it is unclear what happened to her. Was she truly kidnapped by Bigfoot, as Welch claims, or is this a simple case of foul play? This one here I'll leave to you guys. See what you think about that one. 48-year-old Jason Richardson, who was on a hike in Northern California in South Lake Tahoe at Mount Tallet. At one point during his trek, he claims that he heard a guttural sound reminiscent of a human baby voice. That freaks me out. I've heard that. Thinking that it was perhaps a real baby left out in the wilderness, he rushed to where he heard the noise, and then claims that he lost consciousness after being bashed over the head, which was later evident by the blood that they found on the back of his shirt, back of his head, matted in his hair. When he woke up, he says his head was bloodied, and hurt badly, and that he found himself in some sort of cavern near where a bear-like creatures, which seemed to be communicating in a series of guttural grunts, which sounded strikingly similar to what he had heard before he had lost consciousness. Richard did claim that this beast looked exactly as the Bigfoot tales had claimed, except for they had snouts. That's where I think these things may have a relationship, a cousin, maybe. Uh, he said the guttural sounds, which sounded strangely similar to what he had heard before he lost consciousness. Richardson claimed that the creatures were somewhat human-looking and were covered with thick, red hair this time, with feet that were even hairier. If they got red hair and they're larger, does that make sense? They stood around 8 to 10 foot tall in height, and terrified Richardson wondered if perhaps he was hallucinating. As he tried to move, he realized that his hands and feet had been bound with vines and some other plant material. As the creatures approached, his description becomes even more bizarre. Richardson would then describe them, and I do have the description I found of how he described them. He said, "Then they approached me, and he said I pissed my pants. Literally. I am not ashamed to say this. I was so fearful I had no idea if this was the end. That's when I saw their heads. Their necks was hairless, and they reminded me of vultures. Their heads had red hair, but it also black feathers, or I don't know what it was, but it looked like feathers to me. Their eyes were dark, very dark, and big as they got close to me. These big, red, hairy-headed apes. Men, what are you? A crossbreed." I know that could be ugly, something with red hair like that. The creature then apparently got quite aggressive, dragging him across the floor and kicking him. They then went off and returned to the wood and stone tools for some unknown purpose. They beat his hands and feet about as he was scared to move. The creatures picked him up and tossed him out of the cave. At one point, Richardson claimed that he could feel a rock hit him from behind, as the juveniles were throwing rocks at him, as the other ones were jumping up and down, beating their chests, egging them on. He wasted no time running out of there as fast as his legs could carry him. When he checked his watch, 10 hours had passed that he had been abducted. He was now being chased through the woods by the juveniles. Some of the juveniles were throwing rocks. The other ones had sharpened sticks that they had used rocks to sharpen with the night before while he was in the cave. They're sharpening sticks with rocks. That's very, very interesting. And as they followed, they would throw the sticks at him and throw the rocks at him. Eventually, he was able to crawl through a water horn at which he heard them run past. Luckily, it was not the adults chasing me, as I felt like they would have found me. I stayed in the horn overnight, and until morning came, I made it to the nearby road, where I was able to hitch a ride with a logger. I will never return to the woods again as long as I live." So, guys, there's some pretty scary stories, some abductions, that have happened. That was several that I wanted to go over with you guys to kind of show you. Don't go down and gift these creatures and trust them. It's you can't trust them. It's not worth your life. It's not worth your kids' life or your family's life. A lot of people go missing. A lot of people are found dead, and we don't want our abnormal family to be any of those. I know that there is a risk at going out and hunting them. Calvin is now he is a moderator on my channel. He does have a strike team that goes out and they help families that are under siege by cryptids, and he does an excellent job. He has an excellent team, but he is also trained more so than what I would have in my SOT training. He's 101st Airborne. His team is military, and they go out and help people at no expense. And if you need to get a hold of him, if you're having trouble at your home, you can contact me and I'll get the information to him. But I appreciate each and every one of you watching. I appreciate the support. I appreciate y'all joining the channel. I appreciate the donation that's been sent into PayPal for the donations, trying to get the van up and going for further out investigations. You guys are awesome. Until next time. One last thing. Check our other channel out. We might have some weather footage coming up on it and some other good things. If y'all are interested, I post those on the channel too, just in case y'all want to see them. But until next time, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, or in this case, don't be something's shish kebab.